The street I knew stood a girl that looked like you. I guess that's deja vu, but I thought this can't be true. But you moved to West LA or New York to Santa Fe, where it's went away from me. Oh, but that one night is falling just right. I really need you until I came true. Overwhelmed, I'm back to sad as hell because I really care for you. Oh, I swear to you, I'll be there for you. This is not a drive-by, just a shy guy looking for a two-ply hefty bag of home. I love when you move me, everything is groovy. They don't like it to me, maybe where you do me. Oh, I swear to you, I'll be there for you. This is not a drive-by. On the other side of a downward spiral, my love for you went viral. I love you many miles, you drove away. Now here you are again, so let's get the how you been and down the morning friends and last. Oh, but that one night is still the highlight. I didn't need you until I came true. I was overwhelmed and frankly scared as hell because I really fell for you. Oh, I swear to you, I'll be there for you. This is not a drive-by. A guy looking for a two-ply every day at home. I love when you move me, everything is groovy. They don't like it, sue me. The way you do me, oh, I swear to you, I'll be there for you. This is not a drive-by. I believe that when I leave, there's nothing up my sleeve but love for you and a little time to get my hand together too. On the other side of a street I knew stood a girl that looked like you. I guess that's deja vu, but I thought this can't be true. Cause oh, I swear to you, I'll be there for you. This is not a drive-by. Just a shy guy looking for a two-ply hefty bag to hold my love. When you move me, everything is groovy. They don't like it to me, the way you do me. Oh, I swear to you, I'll be there for you. This is not a drive-by. Well, that's exciting. It'll be 25 tomorrow. That's great. And hello. This is going to look really fucking scuffed now. Ignore that. Because I've got something else set up with my camera. As you can see, it's there. Because I've got it set up so you can see my desk. I'm doing Lego. And then I'm going to have to try and fix my camera after I've done that because it's broken. Thumbs up. Well, yeah, I'm doing Lego. I'm building Lego today. Just ignore my lap because I'm wearing shorts and you can see pretty much my entire body. But I'm doing Lego today. So let me just go back to my full camera for now so you can see me. Hello. I'm going to put a bit of a message in the chat. Yesterday was my There we go. But yes. But I'll just want to say happy birthday, Nat, for tomorrow. I'll be sending you a message 100%. So, but I have Lego. I have Lego, and I really want to build it, and I wanted to build it on stream. So the options are for building Lego. We've got a Japanese maple tree, which I really like, and you can see on the back is what it would look like. Or I'll build one of the, well, one or two of the four, the Wally set. And I say four because there's Wally, and there's Eve, Mo, and then there's a little bug that I can't remember the name of. So I've got them two. And I really want to build the maple tree. Because it's pretty. It's pretty. My camera is right there. Like, it is on my light stand, so you're gonna get glare as well with my camera. But yeah. So I feel like I am gonna do this one. I'm gonna build the maple tree. Now, how do I open the box without breaking it? I have no idea. I think it's just literally, it's like a... How do I open this? Do I literally just have to open it here? Okay. I'm trying to open a box and failing. How? I have no idea. You know what? I just have to rip the box open, aren't I? There we go. I got it open. Oh, I just hit my microphone. So, we've got little baggies. Little baggies with numbers on them. I think 7's the biggest. That's a 5. 2, 3. And the little booklet, which I'm going to be using, because I don't want to just build up. Oh, it's not a 7, it's a 1. Okay, so big bag first. Big bag was number 1 first. So I'm going to put it on the screen now. So, booklet. The Japanese red maple bonsai tree. Oh, they've actually got a picture of what the bonsai tree would actually be looking like, which is really nice. I'm not reading all of this. Alright. There is a tool to pry stuff off, but I'm ignoring that and I'm going straight to number 1. So I need to open this. To ASMR. Break. Alright. There's another little baggie inside 1. Put that to the side for now. Cannot make it all fall out onto the floor. So, I'm going to start building it. So I need from this. So this is the pry tool. That's gonna help pull stuff off if I mistake anything, which I'll put over there. So what did I need? I need a black and a yellow piece. So there's the black piece. And there's no yellow piece. What's the size of it? It's a 3. Already scuffed. What the fuck is this piece? If you see a piece that has like 3 dots on it, let me know. Because I can't see it anywhere. It's like the color of it is literally yellow. You can see it on this, and I can't see it anywhere unless it's in this bag. I'm gonna have to open this, aren't I? In this little bag. Right. I'll put this over here then. Because these are all the small bits and I don't want to lose them as well. And then I actually needed to be in this bag. So there's this one as well. That's page 1. Why is it blue? Usually those are orange. Blue? Blue? What do you mean blue? Piece peeler? It's green. Like it is it's like a turquoisey green, but there could also be like hold on. Let me see if this will help. I don't know if that's it's like a turquoise color. But no, it's like yeah, it's like kind of like a bluish. That's so fucking bright. I need to turn that on. But yeah, it's a bluish color. How are you, Kyla? How's you doing? Hope you're having a great day. I probably should put a picture of what I'm actually trying to build up on the screen. I think that would actually be useful. Let me see if I can find it quickly. Give me a second. Picture of what I'm trying to build. I can actually cover up the droid cam as well. There you go. That's what I'm building. What am I doing? I'm having to read this bit. So I need a small red piece. A 2 piece, which is there. Is it this bit? Yeah. Need that. And I need this bit. and then I have to put it this way on. So that's it so far. That's part 3. That's part 3 of 1. I've got about like 6 bags behind me. Then I need to put that to the side for now. I need the next black bit. One of these there. And another small green bit on top of it. And then it says to put these together like that. It doesn't look like a maple tree at all. Then on number 5, I need a long grey bit. Well, I need multiple long grey bits. So this bit with this bit like that. And these like this. I feel like that's way too zoomed out. Let me see if I can zoom my camera in a bit more. Give me 1 second while I have a look. Nope. If I do this, no, just leave it like that then. But so this is what this bit is supposed to look like, and then I'm having to have 2 of those. So it's this bit with two dots on each side. Then these little clip bits underneath on both sides. And then it says on it that then these ledges go boop and boop. And this is what it now looks like. Don't know what I'm making, but I'm making it so far. I don't know what this is. It like an inside? Next page. Okay, now I need another one of these. I think that's the dark green, and I need 2 of those. So the booklet is not staying up, by the way. I need another one to go on the other side. Like that. And then I need 4 of these corners, which I actually don't there. And they go. Bow. Ow. 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 So that's covered the entire top. Oh no, it's only on 2 sides. Hold on. Oh, crap. Oh, that's useful. Shows only on two sides. I've done it the wrong one. So this should be now there. And then I need two of these ones on both sides where the grey is. And then I need two of these. So that. There's the other one. I think that's all the grey pieces left as well. Then one of them. One of them. One of these. And one of these. And then they're both done. Where do I put them? On each end. So that one goes there. And that one goes there. So far, doesn't look like anything. I have to trust the process. I'm glad I'm actually following the booklet, because if I wasn't, I'd be screwed. Because I have no idea what I'm following. Then I need one of these and one of these. This goes on there. And this goes next to it. See, there's like blue, and there's like, it's a maple tree. There's no blue in it. So why is there blue pieces? That's why I'm like, I don't know what I'm building right now. This must be like the base for the tree, because I don't know what else it would be. Then, so that's what it's supposed to look like. Blue bits. I don't know. You can see the picture. I don't know what the fuck I'm following. But then I need these long green bits, which is then this one, right? Yep. And these need flat bits on the ends. Might open one of these just so we've got a little bit more light on one side. Does help a bit. You can see my thighs. So we've now got the green bits. Now to the next page. More green bits. So I need, I believe, these. Yes. I need this one and this one. So from what it looks like, these go like this on both sides, and then this connects like this. So it'll be flat like that on the end. So I need two more of those. There's one piece, there's two pieces. So, like I've just done, grab small pieces. And the big pieces. I say big pieces, the bigger the size ones. And then that's done on both sides. I'm trying to see what this is. It kind of looks like we're now getting to the base of it, but so I'm guessing this is the tree. So like this middle bit is where the base of the tree will be. This is where the tree is going to start, and then where these edges are is where the trees, like the base of the plant pot basically is going to be. Is what it looks like. Then I need these long bits, and to put them on this end here. So it's kind of like a circle. Yeah, like a circle. And it's same on the other side. So it is a circle. Wow. So that's that. Next bit. Alright. Now, on the bottom, it is these bits, which I have no idea what they are. But apparently they go on here. With these bits going off the top. And facing down. Like that. Now it's got a little bump. Also, that didn't really need to be a full page in the book. It didn't need to be a full page. Now we've got now we ignore this bit for now. And so I'll put it on the bag over there for now. So I need what it looks like is this piece. Well, to make that piece, I'll need that. So got two of these to place on top of each other. Then I need this piece and this piece. That piece, what it looks like is then there. So this is where I'm at now. That's what it's supposed to look like. Then I need another green piece of this, which is like the L shape. And make it hover. Like that. And then that goes on there to make it like that. Then I need a brown piece and a green piece. So brown piece goes on there. And then this green piece goes on top there. Like that. We could go put my ass up. Now I need this piece and put that there. No. Yeah, no. God damn it. Need to put the flat bit there. So it looks like that. Which is strange, you know? So that bit's sticking up, but I'm guessing this might be the bottom of the tree. And then Hold on, that's why I'm missing. I'm completely missing an entire bit, which is this. I'm not looking at that. What do I need to make then? So I need this piece, a black corner where it's like this. And I need this piece. Stick it in there just so it's like a thick L shape. And then putting that bump there to then put it on there. So instead it's now a weird, even weirder shape. Does it make sense to me? No. Am I enjoying it? Yes. I like building Lego. And then still with this piece, I need, I believe, this piece to go on top there. And I need one of these bits, put it on the end there. And then that should be just the complete bit, and I need two of those. Oh, and I need to put what looks like two of these on here. Friend to the end. Like that. So now I need to build that a second time. Okay. I'm just going to quickly do that if I can remember how I actually did it. I might have to look back quickly. Boom, boom. I need this piece. Boom. That piece. Dang it. Dang it. Like that. Then I need this piece to go on there. I need this piece on there. This piece. Speedrunning. Fuck, I need to now do this bit. So this. This. Then I need this. 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 Superman. This piece there with that connecting and this connecting, and that's them two pieces completely done. Now I need to come back to this point and now attach this, I believe, here in this slot. Yep. And also now on the other side. Now that's made this shape. Still don't know what it does, but it's a shape. Alright. And now I do it all again. So put that back out of the way. Because now I need to do it all again. But just the opposite direction. Something on my heart here. Boop. Then I need this bit on there. Don't mind my stubby fingers, by the way, because my fingers. Then I need... Yeah, it is literally just the same thing, just the opposite direction, so... So I need this bit, this bit, put it the opposite way if it wants to actually slot in. Then got the L shape again. And then it's not that way, it's that way. There we go. And then two more bits before that, which is this one. Bit. And then that. That's one. And I'll speed run. Speed run again. I need to actually do this first. Don't you know I pump it up? Got to pump it up. Don't you know I pump it up? Ow. You got to pump it up. I keep hitting my microphone. I am sorry if that makes a noise. It's just literally, it's just here. It's not too far away from me, so I keep hitting it. Then I need one of these. Brown piece. Green piece. And then the next bit, which is this. What's that? Just in my face. Then boom. Put that on there. Then I need this piece. This piece. And these two pieces. Have I missed something? I don't think I have. Oh, that's not the one. Hold on. There we go. And they are both now done. Now going to add them on to the base. Like that. So now that's the shape. Alright. Now, what I need is to stretch because my back is killing me now. So we're still on dark green. So I need 2 of these pieces and 2 of these pieces, which are both there. So it's one of these small ones and one of the big ones on one side, and one of the big on the other side. Better, faster, stronger. Like that. And that. And then I need all these bits to then make up for makes us. Oh no. Better, faster, stronger. To make all 4 bits flat like that. Now I need to do it on this side. Hour after hour, work is never over. Make it better, do it faster, makes it stronger. Hour after hour, work is never over. Faster makes it stronger, more than ever. Hour after hour, work is never over. And then that's now fully flat, like my ass. Alright, then we've got 2 of those. 2 of these pieces. There, and that's the other one. And I need to place it there. After our work is never over, and there. So they're now flat on that side. Oh, on both sides. Do it faster makes us. And now we need these heart shapes. These little heart shaped ones. And we put them in these corners. Like that. And we put them on every single one. Do it faster makes us do. Like that. Also, it's actually got legs on the bottom now. Do it faster. Makes it over. Work is never over. Make it better. Do it faster. Makes it stronger more than ever. Alright, now I need these pieces. And this. This goes on the middle here. With 2 green bits on both sides. All in. And that's now like that. Now what do I need to do? Now I need these pieces, which will be in a bit of a strange pattern, but to keep up above in my head, like that. That's that done. And then I've got to now add 2 more bits here and here on the end. I don't know why they just didn't put them together. Now it's 2. I've got 2 extra pieces of these little bits that I'm going to put in the bag, put back in the bag. You're just trying too hard. So that is now complete. Bag 1 is completely done. I'll move that out of the way. Now I need number 2. This, by the way, this is actually how many bags is this? I think it is 6. It is a 6-bag piece, and we're only on 36, and I'm not even halfway through this book yet. This has taken me 50 minutes just to get the base like this. This is so what, like, yeah, I'll just say 50 minutes of work to get that like that. Now, bag number 2. Let's open it and see what we've got. Let's do ASMR again, you know. Okay. What a lovely noise, isn't it? And we've got 2 little baggies this time. Alright. Now, having those 2 little baggies, I might have to find another place to put some stuff. I might have to move my keyboard back a bit as well, just so that's out of the way. Let's just see what I need from this next bit. Tells me to open bag number 2. This piece and this piece. Let's spread this out a bit and over that side. So that goes on that side. This goes on this side. It looks like I'm like about halfway through, but I'm really not, because it's then like you can see the bar where I've completed stuff, and then goes this way, and then it's like the entire book. So then I need a little baggie. But I don't know which one, so that's gonna be fun. Do I need the baggie? I need 2 flat green pieces, which are these, which go, I think here, yeah, if it wants to actually go on. 1 and a 2. There's dog hair, all that. And then I need little corner pieces, but they're like little, so I think they're in one of these bags. Which looks like there is. So I'll put this here. Oh my god, they're tiny little pieces. Holy fucking shit, they're flying away. Flying? They're rolling away. So, is this the correct bag? Yeah. Tiny little piece. One goes there. There's the other piece. It goes there. I don't want any of these pieces to go disappear under my keyboard or off my desk. Then I need a lot of these pieces. So I need a double piece there. A double piece here. Then I need a corner piece, but I don't have that in this. Which probably means it's in the other bag. Oh no, they're there. Hold on. So that's this piece. And this piece needs to go there. Then I've got this piece. And this. That goes there. If it wants to actually go on. There you go. No, it looks pretty weird. I don't actually know what that second bag is for though. This is just there. And now it's the same on the other side. So I need a piece there. One of these pieces to go there. Then I need a corner piece there. And there. Small piece there. And this is the last small piece, which I'm putting on backwards. No. There. So now it's the same strange pattern on both sides. Now this involves these little weird pieces. I can't even tell if you can see that in my hand, but I need one of these on this bit that hurts pushing in, and there, and they're in the other bag. Okay, let me add both of these pieces there and there. Getting down, down, down. Don't fold over. I can't open this bag. Not letting me. I'm not opening the bags the proper way, but I'd like to keep the bags actually safe so I can put the stuff back in them. This one really doesn't want to. Yeah. So. These little green pieces is what I need. One goes there. Oop, I'm trying to grab them. One goes there. Another one goes there. And that's all of them on that side. And then I need another 3 there. Shout it out loud. It's my life. It's now or never. Live forever. And that's now that bit done. It doesn't look very impressive, but I'm having fun, so I don't care. Alright, now from this point, I need one of these on there. Same on the other side, which I'll just do now. And 2 corner pieces. If that actually wants to go on. Down. That bit that goes on there. If it wants to go in. There and there. So that's that done. Then I need, which looks a bit strange, but basically it's these little pieces with these green bits that are even smaller, and I have to put it in the middle of it like that, and then put them here. Let's make another one. So same thing, and then put it on this side. So it's like that. All right, next page. On this next page, it's all these small little pieces again. What you building? I am building. The picture is literally right above me there. My camera is also in a weird spot because I'm using my actual webcam here. So, what is my phone on? 69%. That's great. Love that. But I am building one of the maple trees. Lego. This is where I'm at to now. I'm at number 44. I think my phone's going to die before I end stream, to be quite honest. But at the moment, this is where I am now, 44. And I'm only on bag 2. So. But right now we're doing a little foliage. So we're doing these little green pieces and other green pieces. And putting them on. So these little weird green pieces. And putting them on as well. And that one's there. I think that's all those green pieces, and then I need these ones. There and there. Ow. It does hurt my thumbs every time I have to try and push these ones in. Because they're like little spiky bits. Your world of lies. And that one goes there. Now I need weird curvy bits. Which is, I think, that one. One of them and one of these. That goes there. Like that. This looks so strange. Let me know when you get to the trunk. I'm sure you'll be good at making it based. I mean, I think I'm actually getting to the trunk of it now. I think that's where I'm actually getting to. So I don't need this bit for now. That can go to the side. I now need this long piece. The damn trunk. Hey Such, how's your day going? It's been an amazing day. How's the build coming along? And hopefully you're having an awesome day. This is where I am at the moment. I've got the base of it done, from what I can tell. Don't think there's any more else. Just the bottom looks a bit strange. Right now I'm at 46 out of I don't know what. 89. So, you know, I'm about halfway through. Actually, how was your bowling, food, and something else? My birthday was actually alright. Minus the fact that I've lost a bit of equipment that I was going to use today. I don't know where it's gone. That's my Wally one. I've also, so I got, including that one, I also got this one. So I'm going to build the Wally one another day when I actually find all my crap. But yeah, my birthday was actually alright. The Saturday I went out with friends, went bowling, won both games. We went then for food at a mini golf place because it both like it had gluten-free options as well, which helped my friend. I then we did a bunch of bowling, and the bowling place surprisingly gave us free 36 whole games, two of them each, on top of the fact that we were already on our free game, and they even gave us the whole 36 on that day. So that was fun. Have a great day just watching the Rise of the Shield Hero. Nice. I had paused it and I haven't actually watched it since, which I actually kind of really want to continue on with, but at this current moment in time, I don't have the mental capacity for it. That piece, I'm guessing it's the same piece, just on the other side. But yeah. Currently on a bit of it, so like, there's like a little picture at the top showing me what it's actually supposed to look like, which kind of looks like the start of the trunk, which kind of looks like where that bit is. It looks like one of these two sides. I think it's this side. But so that and that. Then I need two green pieces, which are these ones, on both sides. No more. Baby, you're so fine, you blow my mind. Drop into the driver's seat and put it into speed drive. And then two of these ones, which are them. They've got little holes in them. So this is what it now looks like. Just a load of Lego pieces stuck together. It's pretty much just this as well. Next page. Now I need one of these little red pieces to go in this end. There we go. So that's now like that. Then I need this piece on the top here with a where is it? This piece. Fuck. One of these pieces on the top. Like that. So now it looks like that. Put that to the side for now. And I need this piece that has a little sticky bit on the end. And this piece, which has a hole in the back. And I'll shove that in. Whee! And then I need to put two of these pieces. Yep. two of these and put it one there. Where's the other piece? There. And the other one on the other side. And then put that on here like that. Ta-da! Next page. I need one of these. Oh no, I need these bits first. So that goes there. And the next one goes. Episode 7 finished, and I haven't stopped smiling whilst watching this, bro. Wait, are you watching the new season, or the entire thing from the start? Because I'm sure you're watching the recent one, because if you're watching it right from the start, then I don't know why you're fucking smiling. The entire thing, Jesus Christ. The start is a bit fucking depressing, you know? There it is. I'm trying to find the piece, and then I've just got Mamma Mia playing in my ears, so. I have no idea what this actually is supposed to be. I think it is the trunk, which is standing like this. Fuck the spear dude and the bitch of a princess. Are you at the point where... Episode 7... I'm trying to think. I don't think you're at that point yet. I don't think you're there. I won't spoil anything. I can't remember if you've actually fully watched it yet or not. Why do I have a Discord notification? It is the lemon. Oh. Nah. It's Nat looking at one of the screenshots that I've sent. I played Valorant. It was on stream. It was the Valorant that I was playing on stream the other day, right before I went off for like my birthday, and I had a glitch throughout the game where it literally, my team and the opposite team were all visually on the same team when we weren't. I'm at the point where Philo just got her magic clothes. Okay, so you are nowhere near where I'm thinking of. Just know, what you just told me works with what's going to happen. Just to be a warning. AKA, I'm not telling you anything else. Look into my eyes, can't you see the open wide world? I lied to you, baby. This then goes there. And then this one goes there. They get slapped. Huh? Slapped? Oh, probably. And to be fair, I've also completely forgotten how, like, where I'm on the latest season, but I've not finished watching it at all yet. So you might catch up to where I am before I even get to the next episode, to be quite honest. I now need this big piece, the big boy, and put it on top of that there. This piece I think I need, which goes there. God damn it, go on. And now I need this piece, and I'll put it there, I think. Yeah. I think I'm making the trunk of the tree. Because it actually stands up now. Alright, next page. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. I won't show you that yet. Alright. So, continue with this piece. I now need this piece? Yeah. This piece and another one of these pieces there. I now need another one of these tiny little pieces with these little curvy bits. Because what I'll do is this becomes that piece. But yeah, no, I don't know if like someone's recommended it you or not, but I definitely still recommend it. I would definitely recommend the show. It's just a me thing. I always get a bit. All right, I need this bit because now this is the trunk of the tree. So I need it so it's going this way. I can't get the holes in. There we go. And now that's looking like that. So I've missed a bit. Where have I missed a bit? I've basically just missed this bit here. And putting it there, apparently. I'll just quickly put that on. I don't know if I've missed anything else though. I don't think I have. Let me just double check. I don't even know what that bit was. Oh, it's there. That's not very visually seeable, but you know, I think I have put everything else on that I should have. Alright. Next bit. Right where actually I needed to put stuff is this piece, which is a very strange piece. To put it on this with this piece. Let's freaking go. And what show was you recommending? Because I'm going to be watching a lot of anime and working out after stream. Honestly, I probably need to give you a list, but at the moment there is one that I'm watching currently, which I have been really enjoying. Which is called The Water Magician. It says I need 3. Meh. Why does that say 3? Or is it showing me the size? Hold on. Does that mean there's multiple different sized ones? Ah, fuck. I'll get it out. How do I get this out? Oh, fuck. It's crap blank. I think I've put the right sized one in. Oh, there we go. I got it out. Okay, that is the correct size. Is this a different size then? They're all the fucking same size. Why does it matter? Why have you done this to me? Yeah, so one of them I would definitely recommend is The Water Magician. It is still brand new, so it's not completed and it's not a full one, but I definitely recommend it. I need that piece then. And this piece, it says, your lips are moving. I don't want to put that all the way in. I don't even know if I should put it all the way in. I mean, not just about this base. I think it could be replaced. Give me a list of your favorites, and I'll sit down and watch as many as I can. Most of them are like one season, so you can get through them all in at least a day. But I'll definitely give you a list. Turn your collar, so goodbye, bye, 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 bye. Alright. This piece. And it says I need a little black piece, but I don't know what that is. That's that? It goes in the top like that. And then I need this piece there. Then I need this piece. Moving, your lips are moving, your lips are moving, and your la la la, babe. Hey, baby, won't you bring them tears? 'Cause it's too late, babe. And then long bit to a short bit or short bit to a long bit? Or is this not the correct piece? Are they just the same fucking stuff? Oh, okay, ignore me. And then that needs to go in a bit more. So about there. And that goes there. I got a little branch. Wow. Moving, baby, don't you know I'm done? Your lips are moving, your lips are moving, and you la la la, babe. Me, your girl. Yeah, there's another piece that should technically go on that side, but right. Hold on. It looks like there's supposed to be another side that also goes on here. Tell me whenever you're lonely. Let me just check something. I love this. know. Why is like... I think there might be a mistake somewhere. Or that's just a spare piece, I guess. Like, why would they have just like a little grey bit just on the other side? I think someone's fucked up. I don't know. Or something's supposed to go on there. I don't know. I'm gonna have to find out later on. Alright, this is the next page though. That's really confused me, to be fair. So I need this piece. One of these. I can go on any side, to be quite honest. I'm sure not that one. Then I need... this piece here, and then I need to do another bit with the same piece going on that bit. And then I need to shove that in there. Then I need this piece that goes there with one of these going in the middle like that. This is where I'm at so far. It's a bit strange. This is what I'm looking at. Alright, now this can go to the side for now. I need to have this piece and this piece together. Sorry. Then I need two of these circle pieces, which look like this. If my fingers actually let me show it. That. Also, there's ads soon. I will pause myself building when the ads come. But then we got one of these pieces, which the cross area needs pointing out, so that'll go in there. Like that. Then I need this bit to go on there. This to go on this bit. And another one of these there. And that's that bit done, which then needs to go on here like this. It's a very strange looking bit. But I'm just following the instructions. Alright, now I need the other bend to go on there with the last grey stand piece. And then I need to do that strange bit again. So this piece with this piece like that. need brown pieces this time though. That goes like that. Then I need it's there. Found it. This piece again. Shove it in there. Add a click so that's connected. And then do this stuff again. Everything. This is what the model looks like now. You've ever seen. And then this then goes this way. Oh, so the grey bit is facing towards you and not me. This feels not stable. This feels not stable. And then on the other side is... I keep hitting my microphone. That's literally just one bit for that one entire page again. So they could easily make the instruction manual a bit better than this. Alright. Now I'm making the leaves. So I need one of these bits which has a little clip on the end. And one of these little brown pieces. Putting it on there, like that. I then need this piece, which has like little clip sides on it. Putting that there. I need this piece on there, like this. But I need two of these, by the way, so I'm going to actually do these together, just so I actually don't have to go back later on and do it. Bow, 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 bow. Boom, boom, boom. So that's them two pieces together. Then I need this on both. And then I need the lightest orange at the back. Which are these ones. 1 and 2. Which also has dog hair on it. So now it looks like this. Whee. And then it shows a darker one there. So it's now the front leaf. And then one of these tiny little red pieces to go on the front top red one. Like that. And then I need to do that a second time. One, two, 3, 4, like that. Now that I've got both of those, I need to then put them on the tree. The tree, this will go on there. That's 1. And this is number 2, like that. And then I can also rotate them and do whatever I want with them. So that's 1 set. Now I need to do number 2. This is going to look a little bit different because these are the red pieces. So I need this grey piece here, which, as you can see, it's different. What, 1 piece, 2 piece, 3 piece. Then it's these big ones that I need to clip on, not place. Like that. Then put these on each. By the way, I've got like little extra pieces if stuff like breaks and or disappears and shit. Because I'm now on bag 3. But first, I'm going to need to put this in the middle here. So yeah. So this now goes in the middle here. Like that. Look how nice that is. So pretty. It's so pretty. Alright. I'm now going to have to put all these little pieces into one of the bags. Which will be just that one. Do that to protect the items. And move bag 2 to the back. Now I need bag 3, which is also still quite a big bag. Don't know why they keep the big. I don't know why they like the big bags. What am I getting a notification for now? Ooh. Okay. There. Bag 3. ASMR again, you know. Don't you just love the noise? How many little baggies? 1 little baggie. This is actually a really big bag for a small amount of items. There's another piece stuck. And that's it, yeah. Put that to the side. I'm going to open this one now just because it's just going to be easier. Alright, We're now on bag 3. We are now over halfway in the book, as you can see from the bar. I think we've just gone past the last page was the middle of the book. So for this bit, we're gonna have to make stuff. Yay! So one of these pieces with another piece that I don't think is in this one. It's on this one. So we need the corner piece. One of these pieces goes here. We've got 2 different types of pieces. I'm forever hand in hand. And then we've got this one going there. Ass mess, ass tracks, I look like ass cracks. Only sack track. I honestly think I might have put this the wrong way. Back it up to back this. Get it. So that goes there. This keeps breaking off. It's a little bitch. And then I need this piece here with, I believe, this piece. No. This piece. No. This piece. There. Then I need a 4-piece bit to go there with Sniper. Happy late birthday. Thank you very much. I'm building one of my Lego pieces that I got for my birthday. This isn't where I am right now. I can show you the actual piece of Lego. It's right here. This is where I am. This is the picture it should be like. Obviously, I can change the leaves around myself if I want to change it, but I'm just following the directions at the moment, which are right here. I am currently on bag 3 out of 6. So, do you remember the 21st night of September? I did play, didn't it? Also, my stream avatars is turned off. I didn't even realize I didn't actually turn that on. I could turn that on quickly, actually. Sitting up your tired, so number 2 in the sky. But how are you, Sniper? How's your day going? Hope you have an amazing day. Let me launch stream avatars. I forgot to launch it. Build a 11-bag Formula 1 car. I don't actually know how many bags this is. Hold on, let me have a look. I don't think this says how many bags there are. But I've also got this one. So I can't wait to build this one. Pick real quick. Nice. Let me just load up stream avatars. Hey, girls playing with your boys and ever get lonely playing with your toys. There we go. people's names should start showing up. It is going to be really tiny because I've shrunk it down. I could technically just make it the size of the screen. I think that will just be easiest. You can still see the Lego. You just won't be able to see me. But let me have a look. Ooh, that's nice. I'm not much of a car fan. I do have one. It's on my shelf. But I'm not much of a fan of the car ones. But it looks cool. It looks really good as well. Yeah, I've built this wrong. I'm gonna have to redo this entire thing because I've built it completely wrong. This piece goes here. Then I've got that piece there. This piece. It's the length of my arm. Jesus. That piece there. Then I've got to put this piece. See, that's the wrong piece. That's why. That's the wrong piece. That piece. Then this piece. Then it's this side with this there, this here, this bit here. I'm having to redo an entire bit. That's just in the way. I might actually shrink it back down again. But for now, I think it will be fine. So now this should be correct. Yes. So this needs to go there. Then I need I found it. I'm surprised I've not dropped any Lego on the floor yet. But I don't want to fucking jinx myself. Can touch this. And I keep building stuff wrong. Most of my Lego I have is cars. Fair. Honestly though. I don't have much Lego. Well, I used to have loads. But since I was a kid, I've gotten more just ones that I want. Where there's more on the Flower Lego and Harry Potter Lego. I had one of the first sets of Harry Potter that came out. And now it's all just shoved in the same box up in my attic because we didn't realize how expensive it was as a kid. And because there's like 3 of us and we just broke it apart. So but I respect my Lego now. Alright. I have now got one of the sides on. Chunky. Like, yeah, Lego sets are expensive as fuck. Like, this tree, from what I can remember seeing it as, it's about £40. The Wally set is about 60. And they're the cheaper sides of stuff. The car I have is about, I think, £20. So Yeah, expensive Lego. To go, I lose control. Okay. This is the same issue I've been having with the other piece, so your love. I need your love. Crazy. And luckily, I didn't buy any of them because they were all gifts to me, except the car. The car I bought myself, and I can't remember if I've actually lost a piece of that or not. But no one to go, I lose control. That's not the piece. This is the piece that I need. Where am I? This should be 1-to-1 how it should look, except I haven't actually shoved this piece in. This now should be a yep. My car one I bought was about 250 euros. Jesus. And I need to shove this on the red piece. Oh yeah, it's literally, it shows up on the picture with the grey piece, the grey bit. Yeah, you can see it's there. So that's fun. And then I need this piece with 2 of these. Again, 1 and a 2. Little sticky bits. Kind of been sweating out a game, and right now I'm top 17 and it's almost, yeah, you're on Farlight 84. I know what game you're sweating. Then this piece goes in there. Yeah, because you said at one point, I think it was to Switch, that you're wanting to get above him on one of the characters, agents, whatever they want to call them. And then there's me who just hasn't played any of it. Like, I haven't played it since I played it with Switch, because I know you lot want to play comp with it. I just want to actually just play it with everyone, but I can't. Oh. So that's now on there. Just such a strange place for it to be, because that dangles quite far down. But next bit. Oh, you have to turn the branch itself. Okay. No, absolutely. I absolutely sweated on a game of it when a different person teabagged me that also played the same character I play, and I the second time I found them. Animators almost took Philo out with a zombie dragon, I swear. Oh, so funny. I'm glad I'm not the one watching it, to be quite honest. Because I can't go through that again. I've already tried rewatching it and I can't. I absolutely fucking hate it. It's not even pretty. Wow. What a bitch. It's reminding me massively of Log Horizon. I don't think I've watched that, to be quite honest. Before I absolutely kill myself for putting it in the wrong spot again. Oh. I mean, you can spoil it, I don't care. But other people might. I'm not much of a fan of Demon Slayer. Every move you say. Oh God. It's already almost been 2 hours of me doing this. I mean, I'm pretty far in. I'm almost near the end of it already, and I've still got 3 bags to go. Full heartaches. Every step you take. Pipe goes there. This goes there. All I can say is I hate Doma with a passion. Yeah, like shh. I'm seeing if there's a cinema nearby to go and watch it. Yeah. Yeah, I know a lot of people actually like watching it, so if you are going to spoil it, don't. Pretty much. Just don't. It's unfair on other people, so. Ooh, I've got the other side now to clip on. Meep. Eh? It's because I put this in the wrong spot. Hold on. I was like, why is this not going on? So I put it in the wrong spot. I'm a fucking idiot. To me, you're a full heartache. Every step you take. It feels unstable. I don't like it. I love it. I just don't like how unstable it is. The reason I'm not saying who the character is because Switch wants to find out, yeah. My poor heart aches. Can't you see you belong to me? Oh, my poor heart aches. Every step you take. Hi, Umbreon. How are you? How's your day going? Hope you have an amazing day. I need to do 2 of these. Let me just set these. Let me just make them now, because fuck this. I'm not trying to make it again. Meep, 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 meep. Just do it at the same time. Make 2 at the same time. Woo. I just got home. Nice. What have you been up to today? Has it been like school? I'm guessing it's school. What time is it? Yeah, I'll probably say it's school. Ah, fuck. Bollocks, crap, wank. Shit. So, yeah, school. How was it? What were you learning today? Talk to me. Fuck, bollocks, crap, wank. You. So you went to school, but you don't know what you've been learning, even though you went there to learn. Me. Ah, fuck, bollocks, crap, wank. Don't fall on the floor. You are I leave you alone. Oh, my mind. So that's one done. You're still asleep. Jesus. Where my screen looked stretched and then I remembered. What, do you have stretch res on? Am I wide, Peppo? Peppo Peepo? Am I wide Peepo? Man, then I need baby. Talk to me, talk to me. To me, talk to me. Be the man, man. Alright, they're done. And I clip them on. Not really. But I already know I can leave you alone. Alright. I'll show you when I've done this bit, because this bit is pretty quick as well. Got something to give, I want it. Man, I need talk to me. Talk to me. Yeah, on Firelight now. I only had it on my main monitor. You're on my second monitor. Ah, fair enough. Yeah. I'm doing the right bet. Ah, fuck. Bollocks, crap, wank. I don't want to thank me. There we go. Tree. So close. We're looking like this. Working my ass off and doing like me always. And that's now completed. This says I've got one more thing, but I don't. No, because I'm on the wrong fucking page. To remind you, sexy, I'm a bestie. I've put them the wrong way around. I put stuff the wrong way. It's so funny. I also want to thank me. I want to thank me for looking like this, for looking like this. My ass off and doing like me always. There we go. I've not actually put them on the correct way. There is no spare bits with these bags. I don't think. No. No spare bits. And then I need now 4. Bag number 4. Doing the exact same thing again. The ASMR bag rip. That one wasn't as noisy, to be fair. I've got a little baggie. This one's got even less stuff in it now. Because I'm getting closer and closer to the end. Oh, like, have fun with Dunning. Thank you so much for the like. Very appreciated. I hope you do whatever you're going to do is fun. Where's that one piece gone? Almost on the floor. So, this is actually a really tiny one. I don't know why they just didn't put them together, but I think I'm getting closer and closer to finishing it. It won't be before 5 o'clock. Oh no, hold on. This one and this one. So, yep, that works. Then my bullet. I need to put that on there anyway. And then I need to put these on these ones. What's that? I was like, where's it gone? Pumped up kicks, you better run, outrun my gun. Then I need this piece to go in there. Not all the way in. For this piece on the top. And this piece in there like that. It's like a little weird shaped thing. And then this goes on the tree. Here. Like that. Fuck. Put it the wrong way. Again. There we go. The kids with the pumped up kicks, you better run, better run. Pumped up kicks, you better run, better run. And I'm doing this again. Okay. 1 and 2. 1, 2. Think I'm losing my mind. Stay inside the lines. One in place. Staying the same. Maybe I have something different, and I'm okay with that. I've already shown you this multiple times now. I don't need to show you building the same thing again. Self. As you can see, it's leaves. No one else but myself. Elf. Oh, but this one's different. These are now just red leaves. Away from me. Just back energy. Getting redder. Redder. It's getting more red. You see, better by myself. I'm just gonna do this quickly as well. Might as well. The same shit just over and over again. Same shit, different day. Just these days, everyone's shady. There's no maybes. There we go. So now I can put these on. Oh shit, bollocks, crap, wait. Ooh. Look at the tree. It's getting so close. No more pieces. That's 4 complete. Literally, that's it. That's 2. So now I need bag number 5. Getting closer and closer to ASMR every single time. Little baggy. I think this is just going to be repetitive again. Need to go to the side again. Little baggy's going to be opened because it's literally just the same shit again. Alright, we'll start number 5. Number 5. Show me what I got. Alright, this piece and a piece and this piece. Ooh. I'm going to change my music a bit. I feel like listening to this. Ooh. Da, 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 da. All right. Till I found you. 2. to me. Guess the tree shaft is up and running. Yep. The big log is almost done. I will show you where it's at right now, which is here. Entire tree is up. It's literally just this top bit left. So at the moment, I'm just doing a lot of the leaves and the rest of the tree right now. And then this goes on. This way for some reason, but okay. Alright, so that's that bit done. Redeem fit check. I mean, my camera isn't even the greatest thing at the moment. Ignore the using Droid Cam. So, got my Gymshark top on and my Gymshark shorts on. That's it. That is my fit check right now. The amount of times I've streamed in just these clothes, not they're clean. Big naughty. What the fuck is that? The big naughty bye bye. Is it on Spotify? Because if not, I can't. Big naughty bye bye. Limu. Fucking brain doesn't want to work. That, yeah. Alright, it's on cue. Just don't ask me to fucking read names. At least it's not a sing one. So I wouldn't have a clue, and I would actually say no. So this and this. Do that. That goes on top there. I am not actually on the screen. There we go. Okay. Oh, fuck off. I can't be asked to keep doing these ones. It's just the same thing over and over again. Leaves. Put them all in one and then I could just do them all at the same time. Okay. You know, I didn't expect somebody to be called Big Naughty, and this is the vibe of the song. Because I can't actually read it or listen to it, so because none of it's in English, but all I can hear is bye bye. That's one. And that's two leaves done. I'm just going to do these as well now because it's the exact same problem. Okay. This is Yeah, it's on cooldown because I didn't want people spamming it if it ever got used. Oh, okay. Okay, that's great. Love that. Although that's not now going in. Oh, another one on. For God's sake. Hold on. So what's the song? Bloom. Joey? Stephanie Torns, Joey fucking brain. That one. It's from a musical. I'll skip this song and I'll let it play. Like number 5 is done. And it's the last bag. Yeah, I thought I just felt a piece on my chair and I didn't. Last one. ASMR paper. This bag is tiny. There we go. And again. So leave it again. Getting so close to the end of this. And it's been almost 2.5 hours. Okay, so it's this piece. Ow. I'm not even showing pieces anymore. I'm just building. Like, it's just all the same bits and pieces just over and over again. There's not much point in me showing how to build it, because you've already seen me build it multiple times. There should be another piece. What is there? It's like, it's black on black, so it's really hard to fucking see. And then that goes on there. And then it's the leaves bit again. God, all I've done is just copied and pasted the pages over and over again. It was nice. It's just another musical song, though. Then again, what am I listening to right now? It's a movie musical. From the top so beautifully clear, we can see for forever, not a cloud in the sky, eh? Every day of our lives. Everything you wanted came true, cause it happened to me, so it can happen to you. And on a journey of truth and belief is the key. Open up your heart and let your life break. Feel like I'm glowing, and I like where I'm going tonight. Oh, God's sake, the piece is not sticking. Okay. Out of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Okay. Put your back up and like a singing, dancing. Hands up, stand up. Congregation rock. That feeling that feels so good. If you're already here, I would. Breaking now, yeah, I'm ready to fly now. Oh, and I feel like I'm glowing. Leaves are done. Well, them ones are done. And I got these ones. Gonna let it shine. This little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Now, y'all, put your hands in the sky. Show light, your love. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Here we go. Oh yeah. I am hoping at one point a shelf will be put up right behind here, so I can actually put these on. So this will now say, stick it on the tree. I'm gonna let it shine. There we go. And the last piece. It is literally going to be the last piece. Yep. Going to stick this on, and then this is it. I'm done. Let's have get it fucking on. My stomach's just rumbled through. And that is it. I am done. I could win. This was all the pieces. Every single one of them. It's like you can't even see the blue pieces. Why are they even there for in first place? Is it just that they had like extra blue pieces? But I'm done. Let me show you the completed maple tree that felt so dodgy to hold. Trying to make like I could find me in the space between. This is most likely just going to go in my window, to be quite honest. Which I'm probably going to put it up there now. In the space between. But it's like, it's so wobbly. I hate it. But that is all done. Oh, it will make me open up my window a bit more. So, I've got my phone. It is now in my window. And I'm glad you can't really see outside of my house. That angle was horrible. In the space between. Alright. I'm going to quickly just tidy everything up behind me. That's got bits. Three got bits. Three does not have bits. There's five have bits. It has 2 bits. You and me, oh, space between me. The space between. That is that Lego set done. Let's put the fucking instruction manual away in the box. What did everyone think of the Lego building? Oh la 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 la. No, it might be crazy, but did you hear the story? What did you all think of the Lego building? My phone is here. Yeah, this is my bedroom, by the way. I was gonna have like my phone set up like here while I build it, but I think having the camera, because that's where my camera is right now, and it is on like its like last legs. Speaking of, I'm going sideways. I'm gonna stop this because I'm. Oh no. Okay. Hello. I'm going to quickly fix my camera and I won't be long. I'll still be able to talk to you. I just need to put it back up on its thing again. And reposition my stuff again. The superpower would be so flawless. Oh, it's gone sideways. Dark. Okay. Let me just check to see if it's fixed. Yeah, well, that's really high up. That's too low. Yeah, that's good. All right. Camera's back set up, normal. Yeah, what did everyone think of Lego? I love it. I love Lego. And I've got this complete set that I still need to build. As you can see, it's Wally and Eve. We've got Wally, Eve, Mo on this side here. And then we've got the little bug that I don't even think had a name. But I'm going to have to build that one either off stream if I wanted just to build it myself. I can. Or build it on stream as well. But I hope you all had a nice time watching me build Lego. I had a nice time. It's like, as long as I've got like a distraction, I absolutely love it. I've got something in my hands to do, and I'm not fully focused on trying to play a game. I absolutely love it. It was like with Stray. I was really focused on that, so there was like a couple of hours where there was like nobody chatting, and I was just vibing. I was just playing, and then people came in at the end. But I think I'm going to end stream. Mostly just due to the factor of I've done what I wanted to do this stream, and now it's in my window being absolutely glorious, and the lighting on it looks amazing. But I hope you all had an amazing time watching me. It's absolutely been fun playing with Lego. I love Lego. I will most likely, because there's also more with the Lego set. I just remembered there's this as well. So there's Mal, that's it. Oh, Hal. It's Hal. Then you got the boot with the leaves in it, and you got a bit of rubbish in a box. In a boxer cube. But yeah, I hope you all had an amazing time watching. I'm going to raid onto someone, so if you are here and not lurking, these are raid messages. Please come and join me on like Discord, join me on my socials, come follow me. Please use my raid messages when going over to somebody's stream. I'm going to just get that stream up quickly just so it's open and ready. But I am going to go raid over to them now. I'm raiding over to the Falling Games. He was an absolutely amazing friend, and I haven't actually spoken to him in a while. So definitely come check him out. Used to do Minecraft with him all the time, so definitely go and be friendly with them. But other than that, I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll talk to you all probably maybe tomorrow. I might do a story game again. But other than that, thank you everyone for hanging out with me today. Very appreciate it. I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll talk to you all probably tomorrow. Goodbye.